Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. I apologize for the video being so late. But nonetheless, we'll still go through a regular video. Today we're gonna answer the all-important question. Well, I don't know if it's all important, but pretty much one of the most thought about questions, the what if scenario in 2016. If Bernie Sanders was the Democratic nominee for president. So I've done a video about this before. It'll be a little bit different than the 2020 election prediction that I've been doing because that one would factor in Trump being president. Both the incumbent's advantage and disadvantage, approval rating polls. But now we're just going to take it up to the 2016 campaign season. Hillary Clinton loses the nomination at some point in time, and Sanders goes on to win the Democratic nomination. So, pretty much every state she won would be in his column, with the exception of a few. So, Nevada, I would still consider a toss-up. Parts of the Rust Belt, like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, those I'll come back to because I think they would be toss-ups. I think Sanders could carry Michigan. Probably that's most likely what's going to happen. What would happen if he was the Democratic nominee? Obviously, up in the Northeast, New Hampshire. I mean, it voted for Sanders in the primary. They pretty much loved him throughout the 2016 campaign season. Still, came out and voted for Clinton. I think that Sanders could carry it. Up in Maine, that one electoral vote will leave as a battleground to come back to. Virginia, that would still pretty much be a Democratic state by then. And yeah, so other toss-up states include Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, pretty much a number of these states. Indiana, not so much, but Sanders would win D.C. And now we're just going to fill in the map for Trump. Obviously, he would win across pretty much up and down across the Midwest. You could make an argument that Texas could be close. I don't think it would have been, but well, I think it could have been like narrowly a narrow Trump victory compared to where it was for other Republicans in previous years. So maybe it could have been like a 5-point victory, but it still would be a Trump victory nonetheless. And I also think one electoral vote from Nebraska would pretty much be a toss-up from the 2nd district. So the electoral map with no toss-ups is 242 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders, 257 for Donald Trump. Although Bernie Sanders was a very strong candidate, I honestly do not see him overcoming Trump's ability to grab onto the voters in Iowa. I was just not seeing the energy for Bernie Sanders to bring out Iowan voters. Same thing in Ohio. I don't think that Sanders really could have overcame that 9-point advantage Trump came in with. And I think that it would have been a Trump state regardless of who the nominee was. Over in Utah, Sanders was polling pretty much even with Trump, with McMullen factored in. I think that could peel away a lot of the disenfranchised Republican vote away from Bernie Sanders, considering how far left he is. I think Trump would narrowly carry Utah, but Nevada, that was obviously probably going to go to Bernie Sanders. I mean, Hillary Clinton won the state. It'll probably get land with Bernie Sanders. Across the rest of the Rust Belt, I mean, we're talking about a man who has a strong white working class appeal. Honestly, the Rust Belt would probably go to Bernie Sanders. And ultimately, I think that he would have beaten Donald Trump back in 2016. And I don't think it'll be by a landslide margin. I think Trump can make up ground in a few calls in just a moment. But I think that Sanders will ultimately have been the Democratic winner. North Carolina, we'll come back to Georgia and Arizona, though I'm not really seeing a Sanders big turnout for Sanders to win. As for Nebraska's 2nd district, I think that Sanders' Midwestern appeal could definitely help him in that state. Up in Maine, I also think he would carry that one electoral vote from Maine just based on the way that they voted in the Democratic primary. Wasn't really a toss-up until Trump started paying attention to the rural areas. That'll be something that the Sanders campaign would no doubt be doing in and day out, because that's where the solidified voting base is. The grassroots campaign up in the Northeast, that's where it all began. Going down to Florida, I think Bernie Sanders could carry Florida. I think it would be something that would be within his interest, something that would be somewhat relatively easy for him. But North Carolina, I still think, based off where it voted for Trump, the margins, I think it would still be out of the reach for him. So final electoral map, 309 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders to 229 for Donald Trump. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you all tomorrow.